Hi guys, it's King Gabriel on here, and I'm here for Impromptu video number 52, Truth and its application to our lives. Now, truth. Truth is a topic that seems to be very debatable. You know, everybody has experience and they call that experience truth, and then they try to convince other people of the truth sometimes, or try to get other people to see that perspective, but really and truly it is more perspective than it is actual truth, right? But I'm not saying that there isn't such a thing as truth, because there's a fundamental thing that occurs for each individual that would be more closely related to or be seen as truth, right? And again, it's perception, but at the core of it, for the being that's experiencing in the heart, there is a understanding that this is the closest that one could get to self, or the closest way that one could walk that bridge, so that when it does become available, or when that other part of energy decides to blast through and make itself known, that they are available to that, right? We can make ourselves available to truth. That's what we could really do. We can't really create truth, right? We can't make it from scratch, but we can become available to it, and by becoming available to it, experience it. Through the experience, what happens is, in our physical outplay, our physical experience as well, we start to be able to see the little bits of truth in things around us. And really and truly, the truth in the things around us is still not going to be apparent to everyone, which is why people still debate, even if a person is what we call enlightened and in a space of being completely connected to truth. To try to convince another of that is sort of pointless, because unless they themselves can experience that directly, then you'll still be trying to get them through perception to see what you see or feel what you feel, right? And that is the dilemma that all of us have when we really think about it, because if you even try, if you even attempt to do it, you'll see for yourself. The person already has a developed idea of what life is, and that's what's running their life. So that same truth that's in them is generating that experience for them, and then trying to convince them of something else is pointless, because when they see that, they've locked into that and they already believe that to be 100% true, right? And so the task is really not to get someone to see your perspective, but to get them to turn inside for themselves, right? And lock into whatever is there so it can express through them to experience truth. And then that experience would then lead them to having deeper and deeper revelations of that same thing, right? And that's how we move along, really. So there's no convincing somebody else. If you're a vegan or something like that, and you know you're walking a path that's really good to you and really amazing, and having you feeling good, you can't necessarily watch another person and say that they should be that too, because truly, truth points to itself, and through their path, through their unfolding, they will eventually reach to that point when the time is right for them as well, right? So there's really no rushing or trying to pull somebody along quicker. It's all about allowing them through their process and through your understanding and openness to move towards it at their pace, because we didn't set the pace here. We didn't say everybody's going to evolve in 5,000 years and that's going to be it, right? That's not really our responsibility. Our responsibility is to know that for ourselves and to show it so clearly that others around us decide for themselves, well, there might be something there. And that's how perception affects them to a certain degree. And then they go deeper as well. So, back to the main topic, truth and its application to our lives. As I said, the truth always points to itself. So within, there is something. If you were to sit in silence, you don't even have to be really meditating per se, but just lay down in silence or relax in a dark space, or could be a light space, doesn't matter as long as you relax. What really happens is, if you would just listen and allow things to happen, allow the change to happen within, you'll start to find that things start to present themselves to you all of a sudden. Like you might find your heart pulsing in a specific way that kind of speaks to you. You might get beyond the physical experience of the heart beating and find that there is a droning sound of or as some would call it, right there, just in your experience from nowhere. You can't really say where it's coming from, but it's there. Some would call it background noise or whatever, but really it's there even if you're in a pretty silent place. So it's part of the makeup, right? There's also things like if you sit there, you might, if you are really sensitive, you could actually feel the electrical impulses running from the lower part straight up. You might feel that kundalini energy, as they say, rising, etc. And all these are things, indicators that let us know that there's more than just our physical parameters, right? And when we can start to experience that, we can realize that there's something pulling us or trying to draw us towards seeing that there's more to the experience. There's more to the experience, right? There is the physical and we enjoy it. We do our thing and we eat, we drink, we interact with everybody around us. But there is more to life than even that interaction. There's a calling that's calling us in some way to, as some would say, awake or evolve or go further into what life is about. So truth always points to itself in that if you were to just sit and be there, something in you would call you into action to move towards a greater expression of yourself. For me, I can speak for myself in this case, it took place in a way where I started to see things that I had no idea about, and this, I meditated all my life basically because I just grew up in a family that did that, right? And so what happened was I started to see things like, I saw chakras all of a sudden, and I didn't know much about chakras. I didn't read on them. I just saw them. They were there, and I saw that inside. I saw my heart. I saw the energy inside actually expanding like a sun and touching everything. And then I realized that everybody had it too. I could see it in them as well. And that's how the link happened, that I realized everything was one. So these things are things that happen naturally. And most people don't really talk about it because, well, it's kind of crazy to express things that are outside of the material realm to people that believe in materialism completely. So that kind of is something that people don't talk about. But the truth, actually, the truth, which is you, if you really think about it, points to itself. It points to the fullest expression of you. And so it's important that we have that time for ourselves to just sit and take that time, and to tell you the truth, the greatest expression that I've had in terms of true spiritual experience was the time that I completely laid there, not caring whether I lived or died, for a matter, right? I didn't care whether I lived or died. I came to that point, and it wasn't because of apathy or anything trying to off myself. It was the point of I was so invested in knowing the truth that I didn't care if in the process of getting there I disappeared. I did not care. And that's the point where I laid down and all of a sudden things started rushing in, like really crazy experiences, that if you said to someone else, they'd be like, okay, yeah, so, you might want to get some help for that or something like that, right? But either way, those experiences happened. And in me now, there is not even less of, but there is no question that there is another realm. And so when I interact with people, I'm not trying to convince them per se. But truth for me now would be that there is way more to the experience, and that's what I share, right? So it points to itself, and it always leads you to the question, which is the only question that's ever asked when you really think about it, of who are you? Or what are you? Right? Because we have all these messages coming from around us, from different people, from our learning, from school, from all these places, everything that we've ever done. That kind of defines us as human and tells us, well, this is your history, 2,000 years ago, blah, 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 and all the other things that we learn. And is that really, really true? Is any of that really true? It's important that we examine things like that, because if we don't, then we're just blindly walking into whatever the generation before us has come to as a result of their experience and saying that that's it. Right? And I'm not saying that it's not surely the right way, but I'm saying that we should be open-minded enough to look at it, to see what's happening, to see the results of what's happening as well in the people around us, and to see if that's what we really want to experience. If we want to experience it, then we go there. But if not, then obviously we have to, start looking at it and making our little changes within to allow our experience to change, right? And one of the keys for me, I'll speak again on a personal level because I find it valuable sometimes. For me, one of the things that jolted me into looking at things differently was the fact that and I won't call the specific religion, but the religion that was closest to me growing up, as in was offered to me growing up, said that I had to go through a few mediums to get to God, right? Like I had to talk to a specific person to talk to God for me. And to me, as an individual, that did not make sense to me at all. Because if God is everywhere, omnipresent, why do I have to hire somebody, right, to go argue my case or talk to God for me so that I could get what I need to get or be what I need to be? And that didn't make any sense. So that was enough for me to just look at it and be like, this might not be true. And I wasn't angry with anybody or anything like that for it. I just looked at it and said, well, let me find out what truth really is here. Let me go a bit deeper. Let me go a bit deeper. What they're saying is not the truth. I see their actions. I see how they act. I see what they're doing. I see that some of them are actually doing things that they themselves condemn, right? So obviously whatever they're thinking and what they're harboring is not working. So it wasn't for me. And I continued on the journey and I experimented. I learned. I continued to meditate, to grow, and my experience continued to reveal to me new things because as I believe if you really harbor that vibration within, it makes itself manifest so that you can then evolve with it. And it then becomes a cycle that continues to allow you to grow and to grow and to grow. And so your state of consciousness rises and it becomes the outer experience as well. But then the outer feeds the inner and it goes as a loop, continually elevating you. And so that's what took place. And I had a number of experiences that led to me being able to look at things completely differently, right? And so now my perspective is really different. It's really, really different. And everyone has their own, but I really feel invested in mine, right? And not mine separate from everybody else, but mine in a way that it elevates everybody around me as well. Yeah. And so it doesn't matter whether you are in a specific religion or in another, right? Because the truth about it is, in each one of those religions or experiences that we have, there's always the opportunity for greater growth past the limits of that, right? You could grow up as I really don't want to call any religions, to be honest, so whichever one you're in, regardless of what its principles are, some of it was one time founded in the natural source, the thing that gave life to everything and allowed everything to be as it is. So if we are to follow that path, regardless of whatever path it is, wholeheartedly, the truth within us will reveal itself in that and unmask whatever is hidden, right? And then we'll grow through it. So it's not like you have to get up one day and be like, cast everything out, throw everybody aside, all these people are evil or what. No, there is none of that. There is just the ability to dig deeper into it and to see the truth through what they call the veil, right? Because there is truth at the base of everything. If everyone is actually a carrier of truth or everyone is the truth, then there is truth in every single thing. And we have to look for it and let it reveal itself to us. Right? So no need to go changing up religion and telling people, they're wrong and all that. And none of that is necessary. You don't have to jump from being a Hindu to a Muslim or anything like that. But you have to allow yourself to be open to see what's there and not close your mind or stop your mind from experiencing. Anything that stops you from experiencing is limiting you and stunting your growth as a spiritual being. And nobody wants that. You don't want to stay stagnated forever. It's a waste of your time. And the thing that wants to express through you is always there and wanting to do that. So then why waste your time with sticking on one thing, right? Leave yourself open to experience is what I'm saying. And these things I want to touch on. When it comes to truth, there are a few questions that are asked. Number one, who you are, right? We answered that already. You are truth itself, which is why in your experience, you will experience the truth to the degree that you feel it inside. So through religion, through whatever, it doesn't matter. You will be able to experience the truth through your perception, but according to the level of truth you are allowing yourself to experience within. Right? So nothing is wrong or bad or anything like that. It's all about us developing our skills, our consciousness to the point where we can experience truth directly. That's the who. The what. What it is. Truth is basically, and nobody ever defines truth because a lot of people are scared to go there. But truth is that quality of self that stays anchored in its origin. Right? And when I say that, what I mean is the truth is always true. It never changes. If it changes, it can't be true. Because if it's true one moment and false another, then it can't be seen as true completely. It's shifting, right? So the quality of you that's there forever is going to be what? Your awareness. Your awareness of consciousness. Because consciousness is always shifting, always changing into rich, poor, fat, skinny, whatever you want to call, all these different labels that happen. But within it, there is the observer that is always there, that was there from the beginning, even when you were highly religious, even up to this point where you may be less religious and more open to seeing things just as they are, or whatever you shifted to. But that you, the fundamental you, is always there, right? And that there is unchanging. That there is what we like to refer to as eternal. It's there. It's just going to be there, right? Regardless of what phases the consciousness goes through. And so that is the what we're looking at, right? Where, the where is always the same as well, which is funny because we look at things and we start to think of things in terms of location and physical distance, and we see truth as far off. Sometimes we see the thing itself that's with us, that's supporting and sustaining our life as either far off with religion, right? They tell you, well, maybe up in the sky, and all these different locations that are outside of what we consider to be the self. But it cannot be outside because the consciousness itself that's working is a part of that thing as well, right? And if that thing is within that diffuse in nature, then it has to be, part of it at least, has to be within this realm as well. Has to be within us just to animate us. Where does life come from? Does it come from nothing? Is it just occurring from nowhere? No, it has to be, there is a source of it. And so the source, the thing that we plug into in a sense, is that. And so it's not far off, it's right here. And that's the one thing that is hard to do or hard to understand when it comes to the whole religious aspect of things, because they do tell you that, you know, you are wrong or bad and you have to pray to make amends to get to that place where that thing can come closer to you. But truly, that leads us to thinking that we're bad. And we're bad and distant. And we think we're bad, then our conscious self is going to filter through and make an experience that says we're bad as well. But that's the experience we want to have. Right? So we do have to get clear on the fact that it's right here. Because if it's right here, what it actually means is that we are fundamentally good. Because if we see it as good and we know it's good and it's within us, then we are good. Right? And if we are good, then what's actually happening is that what we experience is the goodness of that in our life, and everything around us starts to feel good. It starts to feel pleasant. Right? So it's important that we see that there is no separation between us and that. That's the key to it, or it's a key. Because if it's off and far from us, we're in a state of reaching for it forever. And if you're reaching for it forever, that's what the experience will have to show. But only because you believed that, right? And that's it's not a pleasant situation. So that's the where of it. Where? Right here, right now, here now. Okay. The when of it, the time again. Time is another one of those things that kind of separates us from it in terms of, we don't think of it this way, but time and distance are kind of the same quality in a way. And I know it sounds different, but if you think of, let's put it this way, if I was to say I have to leave here to go to, I'm in Barrie right now, if I had to leave Barrie to go to Toronto, I know it's an hour away, right? But an hour in terms of time is really in my mind a distance, because I'm saying it's 1 hour away in terms of how far it is. So far and time are now associated. And that's how we associate time and distance. Time and distance seem to be separate qualities, but in our minds, because of how we've made things, Time and distance are actually falling in, they collapse into the same quality, right? So yeah, it's about an hour away, as I said. And so the when of it, in terms of time, is again a thing that happens in perception and consciousness. But it really does not matter. The when of it does not matter. Because the truth about that is there's only right now. Everything that we experience is according to right now. We have all these moments that collapse into our experience, and we see them as distant based on our time or understanding of time. And so we look at it as if it's distant, right? It's far off. But right now, right here, in a decision, if we were to see right here, right now as it is, then right here, right now, everything is happening. Right now, right here. As soon as the mind thinks of it, it's there, right? And that's the experience of it, because when we look at things in relation to the body and the distance of the body from where that thing is. But the body, and this is the funny part, we're going to step further here. The body itself is used for exactly that, to keep us feeling that we're far off or separate from things. So in a sense, the body can become, not always will be, but can become a limit to the mind in that way, right? If the mind knows itself, it realizes that where the body is, or when the body is for that matter, does not even matter, right? As soon as the mind thinks of it, that's a higher level of reality. It's there, it happens instantaneously. And that is a more realistic level of what we are. We're not limited to the body, though the experience shows that, okay? This is just the tool that we use to be able to experience physically and to grow and learn from what the mind has in it, the content of the mind. So it's up to us to really go deep on that and be able to mentally have that space where we know that everything is linked in the mind. The moment you think of somebody, you're in contact with them, right? That's how it really works in terms of that mental connectedness or connection. So, and the how. This is the last thing I'm going to say, and then I have to be going today. I have a wonderful day today, right? Going to right here. The how of it is not really up to us to decide either, funny enough. And when I say the how of it, what I mean is some people think that, and I know this is going to ruffle a lot of feathers, but I'm going to say it either way. If there was specifically one way to get there, then by now everybody would have discovered the one way and everybody would be doing the one way. Since everybody is not doing the one way, there must be more than one. Because people are getting there either way, right? People are becoming enlightened. The world is moving forward. And yes, some people are experiencing different experiences that are contrary as well. But everybody's on some sort of path and everybody's alive, right? So life is happening. What I mean by that in the how is that if we are, again, to be open to life, to be open to the experience, it shows us itself. And the how of it is actually not just one how. It's not for us to answer. It's for us to experience, and through our experience, to learn and to grow and to move forward from. So the how of things is, again, as I said, not up to us to decide, just up to us to be open to. And so we evolve and we continue to evolve, continue to move forward. And then our consciousness rises to the point where we realize that we don't even have to dwell on the how. We just have to dwell on the isness of it, or be there with it completely. And in being there with it completely internally, we then start to experience things in the external that show us it is so. And so on a subtler level, our belief starts to become more solid because we are invested in it internally, and then we're seeing the results of it. And when you see the results of it and you realize the results are concurrent with the inside, then you start to believe that it's actually true. And if it's actually true, then it becomes real. Then it becomes a truth. Then you know it to be true, right? If you know it to be true, no one can raise a question in your mind about it. Can anybody raise a question in your mind about the fact that you are who you are right now? Like, can somebody convince you that you're not who you are? Maybe I can, maybe, but I'm saying it's very unlikely, right? Very, very unlikely. because truly you believe in that. That's why you are that. That's why you experience that, right? And so that's the whole point of it. Whatever we believe to be fully true, we do experience and we do see. And if we see it, then we further believe it, and then we know it to be true. And then it's beyond question. And once it's beyond question, nobody could come around you and tell you any different, right? So that's why I'm able to say a few of the things that I can with full conviction, right? Because I have experienced them to the degree where I know them to be true. And still, that might not be true for you at this instant. But again, the when and all that stuff doesn't really matter. All that matters is that it is that way, and so it will reveal itself in the time that's appropriated for you as an individual. And it did for me as an individual, and I think it will do it for every single person on an individual level. We all grow together. So, that's really what I wanted to talk about. Truth and its application to our lives. And remember the one thing about truth, I want to leave with this again. Truth is always true. It doesn't change from being true to being false ever. So if you have something that's shifty, you know it's not like absolute truth. You know it's just like a relative truth, a truth that you've sort of summed up in your mind and you're experiencing. But there's no problem with that, right? Because those changes do actually lead to a full understanding of truth eventually. So be patient with yourself is what I'm really saying through the process. Be patient, right? And patient not as in just waiting around doing absolutely nothing, but patient in an open-minded way to see it reveal itself through and as you. Lovely talking to you guys, and have a wonderful one. Eternal love and infinite peace.